Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you the books that I ended up reading in March, in addition to those that I plan on picking up in April. So March, I read a total of 6 books. I really have gotten into a kind of audiobook kick. So I had 2 kind of physical books that I read, and then 4 that I read via audiobook. And I think it was just more of like a distraction. We had a family member pass away a couple weeks ago, so having the audiobooks just to keep my mind a little bit busy, I think helped. But overall, this was a really good reading month. I have a 5-star read, which is I'm really excited to share with you, and just kind of revisiting old worlds and old favorites as well. And I feel like my April TBR is also kind of all over in terms of genre as well. So without further ado, let's get started. And before I get started, I know you guys are going to be curious about this shirt, but it is like those like Brazilian porcupines, which is one of the ambassadors for the zoo where we lived, and or like not where we live, but what we visit, pretty frequently. That's 4 hours away, and I love the zoo. I love the animals, and this is like one of their tops. So I wasn't feeling like very motivated to dress up nice, but it's just you guys, so we're all friends here. First up, I ended up picking up The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Shadowborn duet, and this kind of is the second installment or the second duology in this overall world. But because this is kind of like a continuation of, or like this follow-up for the first book in the duology, but also is connected to the first one, it's really hard to explain kind of what was going on. But basically for this one, the premise of this world is that, at least in the first story, we follow this human who is raised by one of the kings in this vampire world. And it's interesting because she, is human, but she's raised in this vampire world, but she hates vampires. So she, goes and competes in this competition where if she wins, she's granted a wish by one of the goddesses, and it kind of goes from there. This book, despite it kind of being about vampires, is very much on the political intrigue side of things. So I thought this was a fantastic conclusion to this duology, and it has a really good setup for the next book, and I think there's going to be a bit of a time jump as well. So I'm very interested to see how this pans out. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I had I thought the ending was really fantastic. I couldn't put it down. It was just action-packed, but I felt like there were some pacing issues where things just got a little bit slow. So, it's quite a big book. Like, it is, almost, 600 pages, and I felt like maybe 50 pages could have been shaved off, but I really kind of loved the beginning and the end. It was just kind of in the middle part where things started to get a little slow. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a fantastic conclusion to this duology, and like I said, I can't wait to see what happens next. Next, for the audiobooks, I then listened to Stars Above and Fairest by Marissa and Meyer. This was a kind of a reread for me because I read the series when it came out, maybe like over 10 years ago now. So it was fun to kind of conclude this audiobook reread of them, and the audiobook narrator does a fantastic job. So if you're looking for a really engaging audiobook listen, I think this series is really great. But these are kind of I had finished the 4 core books, and these are kind of just extra. So Stars Above is just composed of some novellas that provide more backstory to characters and things that are mentioned, and then also kind of where they are present day as well. So I thought it is some fun extra time with the characters and kind of getting more of that background, which is touched upon, but we get to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. But I felt like some stories were just kind of better than others. Ones I was like, I don't even understand the point of this, or am I just missing something? It was fine. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It's not my favorite. I don't think it's essential. I think there are maybe you can pick a handful of the stories to read, but I don't think it's required for the series. They're just fun extra stuff. And then I also listened to Fairest, which I also gave a 3 out of 5 stars, and it provides Queen Lavanna's origin background story, basically on how she ended up becoming queen, her relationship with her sister, and kind of all the things that kind of kicked everything into motion that we're dealing with 10 plus years after kind of this novella. I think it provides, it is a very decent novella. I think it adds a lot to her background, and we kind of understand her motivations and why she acts the way she does to certain things. So I did really, you know, enjoy that and kind of figuring out her motivations because I forgot a lot about it. But yeah, again, it was just a fun, you know, quick audiobook read. So again, both of these I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I have a 5-star read, and I was obsessed with this. Like, I was like 100 pages in, and I told my husband, I was like, you need to read this, it's so good. And he read it and he loved it as well, and it is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. This book just knocked me off my socks, basically. It was amazing. So it follows Matilda, who is kind of born to this world where there are gods of like the underrealm, there's mortals, and then there's the skyward gods. And the skyward and underrealm gods don't really get along, but she is born to both worlds, where her father, we don't know who he is, he's from the skyward gods, and her mom's from the underrealm. So she's kind of very unique, and she's kind of known as the herald, where she, you know, transports messages and things to other gods. And she ends up walking through the dreams of this boy who's living in the mortal realm, and they form a connection, and it kind of goes from there. This is kind of, I would say, like loosely romance kind of leaning. Like, there is some like romance undertones to it, but I would say it's more like fantasy forward with a subplot of romance. So I wouldn't say this is like 100% romantasy, but man, I like could not stop thinking about this world and these characters, and it just had such a really unique like magic system. It was just really, really interesting, and I really could not stop thinking about it. Like I said, I read like the first like 100 pages, and I like told my husband, and he really loved it too. Like, this was a 5-star read. I loved it. Was heartbreaking. I loved the yearning, and I also loved the fantastical world and the characters and their dynamics and relationships with each other. I want to be like as vague as possible because I think it's best to kind of dive in not knowing too much, but this book was incredible. Like, I could not put it down. Like, you know, it's a good book when you just keep thinking about it, and so that's how I like know. So like, I'm still thinking about it now to this day, and so that's like a testament of how much I really enjoyed it. I think it's, you know, it was incredibly well written. The writing was like lyrical, like it had me hooked from like the first chapter basically, and you just, you know, find things how they're weaving together, and there's like this mystery and all this stuff. Like, it was just fantastic, and I think it's best to kind of go in not really knowing too much. But yeah, this book was amazing. Like, it will definitely be within my top books of the year, I know 100%. And lastly, the last 2 audiobooks that I listened to, I started my re-listen to the ACATAR series by Sarah J. Maas. So I listened to A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. So these ones, like, especially with the new books coming out later this year and early next year, I was like, okay, it's been long enough. Like, I know the original trilogy well enough because I've reread them. This will be the 3rd time, I think, now. So I like know the original trilogy pretty good, but it's A Court of Silver Flames that I like don't remember too much about for whatever reason. So I was like, why not just, I'm already kind of in an audiobook kick, and kind of just listen to these via audiobook. And I definitely think they kind of have, you know, nostalgia attached to them, and they've been a really good distraction kind of, you know, when I've been a little bit sad recently. So for A Court of Thorns and Roses, I gave a 4 out of 5 stars, and A Court of Mist and Fury I gave 5. It's just like, they're my guilty pleasure reads. Are they the best? Like, are they to the quality that this is at? No. But I love the characters, I love the world, I love all the things, and there's something very comforting about kind of revisiting this series and this world and like the characters and all of that. So it's definitely like a good distraction. So like I said, they're just really fun to visit and kind of read. So I, you know, like I said, it's just, they're my guilty pleasures. So next, let's move on to my April books. So April is going to be a bit of a crazy month. I have a conference in Toronto in the middle of April, and then I'll be back for a few days, and then I have to go back to Toronto for a celebration of life. So there's just like a lot of traveling, so I don't know how much reading I necessarily will be getting into. So this might be wishful thinking, but continuing on with my like audiobook kind of listens, I will do, I'm currently listening to A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, so I'm about a third of the way through right now. And then I already, like, as my Christmas tradition, I always read A Court of Frost and Starlight, so I've already kind of read that one, and then I'll next move on to A Court of Silver Flames. So just kind of continue on with my ACATAR rereads. But the next book that I'm about a little bit over halfway through now is The Spy Coast by Tess Garrison. This is her new series, and it's like, think of a less cozy version of the Thursday Murder Club, and that's kind of how I would describe this. But we follow our main character, who is like a former CIA operative, and a lot of the CIA operatives, when they retire, they will basically a lot of them have gone to this like remote town in Maine, and they'll kind of live out their retirement there, kind of away from the hustle and bustle of the spy life, basically. But there are things from our main character's past that are coming up. One of her, like, I guess, co-workers in one of the cases has disappeared. There are murders taking place, and they seem to be targeting one of their missions from 15 years ago. And so while we're trying to figure out what is going on, we're getting flashbacks to the, I guess, like, the case, or like this operative mission that like is being alluded to that they think is the cause. So like, and again, like, because there's a lot of retired CIA operatives that know each other, they're kind of, inserting themselves into the investigation because they know a thing or two about that. So this is the one I'm currently reading. I'm about, like I said, maybe 60% of the way through. I do like it so far. I haven't read a Tess Garrison book in a really long time. So this is a series. I think there's already a second book out and a third one coming out later this year, so it's always nice to have one that I can like marathon. So I'm definitely really excited about this one. Next, I have Anxious People, which is just carryover from my March TBR, and I do definitely want to get to him. I feel like Frederick Backman, I don't know, gives me like spring summer vibes, except his like Beartown series, but his other ones I feel like are just more spring summer. But I think this follows a group of people who are at like a bank, and they kind of are involved in a like hostage bank robber situation, and they end up forming a bond from there. But yeah, I'm excited. This one's like fairly short too, and I think Frederick Backman has just a beautiful writing style, so I always like forget how much I love his writing until I pick it up. So I'm excited for this one. Like I said, I already kind of talked about this one last month, so I won't go too much into it now. Definitely in the spring and summer is where I kind of pivot away from epic fantasies into more kind of historical fiction and contemporary books. And this one, it just seems really interesting, and it is The Life She's Given by Ellen Marie Wiseman. This one just seems so unique and interesting, and I've read a few of her books before, and she does a really good job at weaving past and present storylines, so I think this one will be no different. But it says, on a summer evening in 1931, Lily glimpses circus lights from the grimy window of her attic bedroom. Lily isn't allowed to explore the meadows around Blackwood Manor. She's never even ventured beyond her narrow room. Mama insists it's for Lily's own protection, that people would be afraid if they saw her. But on this unforgettable night, Lily is taken outside for the first time and sold to the circus sideshow. More than 2 decades later, 19-year-old Julia has inherited her parents' estate and horse farm. For Julia, home was an unhappy place full of strict rules and forbidden rooms, and she hopes that returning might erase those painful memories. Instead, she becomes immersed into a mystery involving a hidden attic room and photos of circus scenes featuring a striking young woman. At first, the Barlow Brothers Circus is just another prison for Lily. But in this ragtag, sometimes brutal world, Lily discovers strength, friendship, and a rare affinity for animals. Soon, thanks to elephants Pepper and Jojo and their handler Cole, Lily is no longer a sideshow spectacle, but the circus's biggest attraction, until tragedy and cruelty collide. It will fall to Julia to learn the truth about Lily's fate and her family's shocking betrayal, and to find a way to make Blackwood Manor into a place of healing at last. This one just seems so interesting. I think the circus background seems really, interesting. I obviously read Water for Elephants. When I was in high school, we had to read that. And then also the last circus book, I think, was The Night Circus, a very long time ago. So I'm very interested. Like I said, this author does a really good job at writing, heartbreaking novels, and it really pulls on your heartstring. But she does a really fantastic job of weaving in the two storylines, and that like doesn't feel very disjointed, but increases the overall narrative. So it's been a while since I've read one of hers, so I'm excited to dive in. Next, this is a book that I picked up a while ago that has been calling to me for a while now, and it is the Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. And again, this one just seems so interesting. So it says, Esme is born into a world of words. Motherless and impressionably curious, she spends her childhood in the scriptorium, an Oxford garden shed in which her father and a team of dedicated lexicographers are collecting words from the very first Oxford English dictionary. Young Esme's place is beneath the sorting table, unseen and unheard. One day, a slip of paper containing the word bondmaid flutters beneath the table. She rescues the slip and, learning what that word means, slave girl, begins to collect other words that may have been discarded or neglected by the dictionary men. As she grows up, Esme realizes that words and meanings relating to women's and common folks' experiences often go unrecorded, and so she begins in earnest to search out words for her own dictionary, the Dictionary of Lost Words. To do so, she must leave the sheltered world of the university and venture out to meet the people whose words will fill those pages. So this one just seems really interesting, and I love kind of the feminist twist on this. So again, it just seems like it's been one that's been calling to me for a while, and I'm just kind of been like, you know what, this spring we're getting to it. And finally, this last one is one that is again more contemporary, and like I said, I always kind of gravitate towards more historical fiction and contemporary kind of in the spring and summer months, and it is Unlikely Animals by Annie Hartnett, and this one just again seems so unique. So it says, natural born healer Emma Starling once had big plans for her life, but she's lost her way. A medical school dropout, she came back to small town Everton, New Hampshire to care for her father, who's dying from a mysterious brain disease. Clive Starling has been hallucinating small animals as well as having visions of the ghost of a long-dead naturalist. Ernest Harold Baines once known for letting wild animals live in his house. This ghost has been giving Clive some ideas on how to spend his final days. Emma arrives home knowing she must face her dad's illness, her mom's judgment, and her younger brother's recent stint in rehab. But she's unprepared to find that her former best friend from high school is missing, with no one bothering to look for her. The police say they don't spend much time looking for drug addicts. Emma's dad is the only one convinced the young woman might still be alive, and Emma is hopeful he could be right. Someone should look for her, at least. Emma isn't trying to be a hero, but somehow she and her father bring about just the kind of a miracle the town needs. I feel like this one just seems like it's just going to be really unique and heartwarming and, you know, maybe a little bit sad, but I just think it's just really interesting, and yeah, I don't know. And also the cover is just very springy to me, I don't know why, and there's a cute little dog and fox on there. So yeah, this is one just that I think is a little bit outside of the box, and I'm just really curious to see how I feel about it. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books that you read in March were and which ones you're looking forward to in April. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.